I've done a couple of videos lately about the shelterbelt trees and how well they're doing, and also the understory that I've put in, but I haven't done anything for a while on the inside of that system. So we've got a double row of Italian alder as an outer skin, and then that's got an understory of Elaeagnus ebingi as a nitrogen fixing evergreen shrub that's really good dense windbreak. And then there's the path that I'm walking on, and then behind me there's a small food forest system that's maybe about, I don't know, 10-15 foot wide, and then that's got, just coming through this year, it's got coming through a willow fedge the other side of it. So that bit in the middle is going to be pretty well protected eventually. So it's got all sorts in here, but most of it's been pioneer stuff and the shrub layer and, you know, a few other things that I haven't been too worried about. If one or two died, you know, not the end of the world. Getting established, but now this week I've reached the point that I'm finally going to start putting through some of the final succession plants that are going to hopefully, you know, come through and become the main over canopy of this whole strip. So rather than fill myself digging holes, what I'll do is I'll plant them all, I'll get them all in, and then I'll explain what I've got, where I put them, and why. So that's all them trees planted. So first one is here, and this is a wild service tree. It's also known as checkers. You can see next to it here there's a Morello Cherry. That'll be an understory because that's on a dwarfing rootstock, and that fruits pretty well in the shade. So over this there'll be the checkers tree, and that'll go up and it'll be a full height tree. In front of it we've got just a fairly bog standard pine. That's nothing fancy, that's just there for wind protection and to get systems established. And with the rushes behind, that should be pretty protected. This is a couple of years old. We've had it in a pot and it's done really well, so we'll see how it does when it's in the ground. In front of it that's a small leaved lime, and that's one that we'll pollard or coppice regularly and just use that as bulk salad leaves. Then next to that there's a currant that you can see, and then there's another small leaved lime. So you can see there's all sorts of the understory plants are already in, as well as things like, yeah, we've got all sorts of flowering bulbs. That's daffodil. There's got loads of daffodils in. There's some more coming through there. Oh, and another thing, you can see they just started to come out all through this, but also alongside we got loads of snowdrops, and they're all through this section of trees. So eventually they'll fill in, they'll come around the tree, and they'll stop voles from coming in from underneath because they really don't like digging through snowdrops. And I think that the daffodils work the same way. So the next couple of trees along, as you can see, we've still got currants and so on. All in is an understory. There's red currant, there's white currant, there's black currant, and I think we've also got a few gooseberry in this lot as well. So next up I planted two of these. Now these are Antonovka apple. They're on their own roots. It's an East European and Russian variety. That'll grow up to a full height tree. The reason I put two of them in is in case one of them doesn't make it. We got plenty of them. They're quite small, but they're a fairly aggressive tree. They're very tough. They're fairly wind hardy. So it'll be interesting to see what they do as they come up. Over time, these pine trees will be culled out. They're just there for pioneer species really, and to give us a little bit of protection. So you can see there's currants everywhere. Yeah, put a load of sticks in a couple of years ago, and they're still coming through now, doing really well. I'm not going to name everything that's coming through here. You can see there's all sorts of stuff. And there's this one. Now this one is over a hazel tree there. There's a hazel tree there, and there's another one there. So the back level here is going to be hazel coppice, and as an overstory to that I got this. This is a chestnut tree. Now we've got a couple of hundred chestnuts coming on. They're only about 6 inches high so far. They'll be ready to go in a couple of years, but this isn't one that I've just grown from a nut, because that's how we grow most of them. This is one I bought this year as like a stud tree, a stud genetics, and this is a grafted cultivar. It's I think it's Spanish Dessert, I think is the variety. So interesting to see how that does compared to the ones that have just, you know, been brought in brought on their own roots. And that again will be an overstory for this. This is another Morello Cherry. You see what it's doing. I mean, it's a really healthy tree. I'm really pleased with the way that Morello's working up here. But there's all sorts of other understory trees, so I'll skip a bit. You can see the hazel just starting to bud out. So yeah, the trees that bud out a little bit later tend to do well. We had a pretty bad bit of weather recently, so a lot of things got quite badly burned. Now this will come up to about 4 or 5 meters. That's one of the Nepalese pepper trees. This variety, I've got a couple of small ones to go up and around the pods in the orchard, but this one will go up to 4 or 5 meters, so I've put it here in this section. Next to it, it's got, this has been in for 2 years, that's a sea buckthorn. In fact, there's another couple of them coming through here. There's also pioneer understories like this, that's a dog rose, one of the local ones that we've got going in. And as well as that, we've got things like, this is a crabapple, and we've got a lot of variation in the crab apples that we got on site. But that's really, really healthy looking tree. We've got a cherry plum. No, sorry, that's a bird cherry, that one. But there are some cherry plum. But anyway, so it's all pretty diverse. And then we move on to the last one, which again is the other side of the sea buckthorn run. And this one, again, as you can see, it's got currant bushes in as an understory, all good to go. And this is a giant Pakistani mulberry. I brought on a whole packet of them, stratified them, and there was only one survivor, and it's this one. And it's just done incredibly well. It's had a couple of years in a pot. It's a very, very healthy tree, so I'll be interested to see how this one does, because the fruits on it are a good 3-4 inches long. So I'm very interested to see how that does, but so far they seem to be really healthy. So yeah, that is south in that direction. So in winter the sun comes up over there in the southeast. So you can see that with having the shelter belt behind me, this is going to be a really little protected strip of food forest. So it's nice getting the overstory trees in. Actually start to get a sense of what it's finally going to look like. There's still capacity for another 4, 5 to go in, and perhaps in 10-20 years some difficult decisions are going to have to be made about which ones go and which ones remain. But I'm going to overplant for the moment, and we'll see which do best and which are the best suited cultivars for this particular spot. So that's today's trees going in. It's nice ones today, they're proper fancy trees. I've got another I think 60 trees arriving in the next couple of weeks, but they're more shelter belt species for elsewhere. I'll probably film it, but it's not as exciting and varied and so on as all this. This is the really fun stuff. Anyway, time for a cup of coffee.